Hi, so tonight's video is very exciting to me as I came up with this idea for our health units to have IEP-like plans for everybody, but more importantly for those with disabilities while they're on the mental health unit, called individualized um, service plans. Oh, individualized support plans, which is the same thing as service, and it's came off of the idea of when I was in school in the 90s. It became a huge thing to give accommodations to students with disabilities so they could help make it through school. And I really think it should be the same way in the entire medical field, but specifically mental health, because um, they they just don't understand that we as people with disabilities need specific things. And I know I'm not sounding super excited right now, but I will get there. So, like, an individualized support plan would be like allowing someone to be with them in, like, as a one-on-one, without having like added stigma, like asking them throughout the day if they want to talk to a staff member alone, or like not alone, but like outside of the group, the common area in the unit. Um, and that would be really helpful, just to check in with them more than once a day, more than twice a day, during groups or during shift change. Because that doesn't really help with treatment. It just helps know where you're, see where they're at. Um, and they aren't always honest when people can overhear them. Um, I know because that's how I am. I keep how I'm really doing a lot to myself when I'm in these mental health units. When I'm in with everybody else in the common area, um, more more commonly known as the day room, or the like group room, which is where calling a room is weird because it's where everything happens during the day, not just groups, not just meals, but that's where you spend most of your time during the day, unless you go to your room and sleep or journal. But most of the time, you're in that area all day long. Um, so it's not really a room, but it's a area. It's a part of the unit where people don't sleep. I mean, I guess if somebody like me has a seizure, they could possibly be like so out of it that they look like they're sleeping. But they're really having a seizure. And that's also why, involve, neurologists or specialists in the planning of the support plan, what might be needed along with the mental health support. So, maybe in neurologist or pathologist in my case would have been nice. Having maybe asking me if I wanted to talk to the therapist or social worker at least once a day when I was there would have been helpful also. Not just for them to check in on me, but for me to be actually feel like I can open up and be more showing them more of myself than what they see and what you're seeing on these videos. Another thing is the accommodations to have a teddy bear or any comfort item of their choice, or uh, fidget toy, like a fidget spinner or a poppet ball, or anything that they can squeeze, like a PPJ, those squeezy toys where you squeeze it and something comes out at the front, like gel, ball comes out at the front of the toy. That might not be such a good example because it could make a mess on the unit. But if it's an adult unit, maybe it would be okay. But also have those kind of items on the unit already, because not everybody can afford the items that they might need. Allowing them to use the items from home that they use at home every day, so they're more comfortable. Because honestly, those hairbrushes that they give you in mental health units are not the best or nicest ones to brush your hair with. They are, the texture of how they feel on your hair is so much different than, say, a wet brush, which is a lot gentler on your hair, especially if you get a lot of tangles. Or I'm just used to using a wet brush, so it would have been nice to have been allowed to use a wet brush, or my own toothbrush, my own toothpaste, my own shower gel, my own shampoo, anything that I normally use here at home that I know works well for me. My home medications, because I know for myself that not all manufacturers that make the medications that I take work the same. And so I have to pay attention to what manufacturer I have currently and let them know that I prefer that one if possible. And I'm gonna plan on asking before the EMU say if I could bring my if they could just use my home medications instead of the ones in the pharmacy in the hospital. If I can't, then I'm okay with that too. I just prefer to use my own if I can. Another thing for the individualized service plan is maybe talk to them during their stay on the unit, actually explaining to them what they have, what their medications are, what they're for, when exactly to take them, because the pharmacies outside of the hospital, like, they don't literally, they only say take once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, or as needed. And that is not helpful, because when you're trying to fill it outside, like for the coming week, or in my case, the coming 2 weeks, every time I fill on a Saturday night, when I see once a day, or twice a day, or 3 times a day, I know I have to spread it out, but I don't know what times to take it, um, what time is recommended to take the meds. So that's why I asked before I was discharged this time to put the times that I took them when I was on the unit, so I knew what times to, like, to set up reminders for when I got home. Um, and it's not honestly easy as a person with disabilities to remember everything. Like, I don't even sometimes don't even remember to turn on my iPad in time. To be completely honest, for the reminders to take my meds. So sometimes I don't take my afternoon med until just before dinner, because I don't. I only have one, or that's 3 times a day. So I try to put others with it, but even that didn't help. So I need to remember to have maybe notifications on my laptop, or like have a friend, so somebody else, um, message me saying, "Hey, did you take your medication or medications?" Or it's time to take. Just reminding you, it's time to take your medications. It's time to take your medication. Maybe that would be helpful also. So maybe, like, on the during discharge planning, talk with the patient and see what might help them. Like, maybe you call them multiple times a day for the first, as like I said, here in Maryland, it's the first 30 days post discharge from the unit that you're supposed to go call, every day for the first 30 days post discharge from the unit. So maybe during, like, discharge planning, you can ask the patient, do you need one call a day? Do you need 2 calls a day, or 3 calls a day? And ask them what number to call to get the reminder, or the text saying, reminding them to take the meds. Um, this is so much that's involved in, like, making an IEP-like plan for a mental health unit stay, and I get that because there's a lot of pieces moving around. But one other thing I want to touch on is about, like, a pastor or a preacher, or from their denomination or their place of worship, like a rabbi, um, like my church calls it a pastor. The Episcopal Church calls it, like, father, like they call them like the preacher's father, this, father, that, and stuff like that. So just ask them what they need for their stay there, and like maybe have the chaplain or um their spiritual their um spiritual slash it, sorry, I can't think of the word right now. um Religious prov- I'm going to call them provider leaders, um, to allow them to call them multiple times a day to remind them about meds, and like to come see them multiple times a day while they're on the unit. Um, that's another route to go, a way to go about it. Um, Another example would be maybe allowing them to have a nightlight in their room. Maybe a nightlight with our cord in their room during the night so they can sleep better. Maybe providing a blanket, like a nicer blanket, especially in the winter. Like just ask what they might need and see if there's a way to provide that. That is it for this video, and I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.